Vamos falar agora dessa geração Z, aliás, continuar falando dessa geração Z, que tem um papel cada vez mais relevante na construção do futuro financeiro e também na transformação das dinâmicas de consumo digital. Para compartilhar a sua visão sobre esse cenário, eu convido aqui ao palco a Chief Consumer Product Officer da Mastercard, Bunita Sawhney. Welcome.
Hello and good afternoon. Hi. I can't hear you. Good afternoon. How are we doing? Good. All right. We're going to bring some energy into this room. I'm sure it's been a bit of a day, but I'm hoping that we're going to talk about something as important to me as it is to you, and we're going to talk about the consumer, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. So just to take a moment to introduce myself, my name is Bunita Sawhney. I'm the Chief Consumer Product Officer at Mastercard. And what does that mean? It means that I have the opportunity to think about the needs of our consumers all around the world, including what we do in payments, credit, debit, prepaid, installments, but also how we think about some of their other needs as they think about values, sustainability, Priceless Planet Coalition as an example, and of course, the work that we do in financial inclusion, that we do with many of you here in this room. I see so many friendly faces, and I really appreciate that you've taken the time to be with us here today. Today, we're going to talk about Gen Z, and I heard the previous discussion. I know it's already been a theme for the conversation, so clearly there's some reason why we're all interested in talking about Gen Z. And before I go there, we'll take a moment to just talk about digital and digital transformation. I feel like I wouldn't be here representing Mastercard if I didn't bring the conversation about digital into the room. And the question that we often get is, we hear a lot about this digital transformation, but haven't we yet transformed? We're all using digital experiences in our every single day, and so is there still a transformation ahead of us? But I'm sure, as you've heard throughout the topics, very much there's still so much opportunity, so much momentum ahead of us. So whilst there's been some unique conditions, we've lived through a pandemic, for example, and there's some geopolitical churn, but some of that geopolitical change is resulting in real innovation. So we have lots of new ways that consumers are getting to experience digital engagement. What I can tell you is that we still have a significant runway ahead, and I'll give you some specific use cases and examples of this. But what's so cool is already today, you can pay with your coffee with the tap. You can pay and check out in a store by waving your hand. You can check out online with one click, right? These things are already here, but they're not fully resident. They're not fully scaled, right? So we have the opportunity to do more and reach consumers in a way that's safer, that's seamless, and that's secure and empowering for these consumers who expect the highest quality of digital experiences going forward. So why are we so focused on Gen Z? Well, oftentimes we think about Gen Z as the consumer of tomorrow, but I would argue that Gen Z is very much the consumer of today. It's already 25% of who we're exchanging with, whether we're offering new bank accounts or new payment accounts, for example. It's already almost 25% of our workforce. And Gen Z will be the consumer segment that all of us are thinking about all the way through 2050, 5-0. It's one of the largest human populations that we have from a consumer segments perspective. And these consumers are a little bit different than the generation before them, and they're certainly going to be a little bit different than the generation that will come after them. What's different about them? So we've spent time really listening to consumers and trying to understand what matters to them the most. We've benchmarked our understanding of the consumer in over 25 markets worldwide, including, of course, throughout Latin America, in Brazil, in Mexico, in Chile, in Colombia. And we want to make sure that we really, really understand what is the driving force, and again, why should we focus on them? Latin America actually has a disproportionate Gen Z opportunity. 160 million consumers strong, who will control over $190 billion in spend by 2032, right? So not that far away. But these are a strong, large base with huge spending power, right? And what we learned about them is there's sort of three key trends that I'm going to spend a little bit of time on to share with you, and I hope that it gives us the opportunity to innovate on behalf of them together. The first trend we're going to talk about is personalization. Second, we'll talk about values. You heard me mention values as it relates to sustainability. There's so many other ways that these consumers are expressing the need to connect with your brands with values. And the third is the desire for control. I know every single one of us in the room has some desire for control. It's an outsized desire for this particular consumer segment. So let's start with personalization. And what does that mean? And oftentimes we're talking about AI or agentic AI, and some of us might feel like, could it be a little bit creepy? Is it too much that you might know about me? But the short answer actually here, when we think about personalization, is using technology, digital solutions, and data to put the consumer in the control and drive the personalization that they seek. What we recommend is that we think about allowing the consumer to design their product, customize their product with you. Now, I recognize that we can't have 55 products on the shelf or 1,000 flowers blooming, but there's ways, and I'll share a couple of examples with you, that we can help with the consumer in a way where they can modify their product a little bit, but it helps them feel like you hear them, you see them, and you really want to help them drive their experience. The Gen Z consumer is a digital native consumer. These consumers were born in a world where digital devices exist, they're accustomed to them, and they're social native consumers. And so we have to also recognize that the way in which we engage with them and we receive them is likely going to be in a channel that might not have been the channel that you learned about financial services, for example, or you found your first bank account. We have to meet them where they are. And so when we think about personalized experiences, the way we design the product is part of that as well, and the way we distribute the product is part of that as well. One third of consumers have told us they're willing to pay more if the product allows them the chance to personalize the product. And 3 out of 5, sorry, I got the statistics wrong, so I'm going to take a step back. 3 out of 5 consumers say that they want the ability to personalize the product. 70% of consumers are actually willing to pay more for the product. 70%. That is not a small number. And the other thing that can help us differentiate and really reach these consumers is connecting with them on values, on what matters to them the most. So I know we think about our brands and empowering our brands together, right? I'm really proud of the brand that is Mastercard for sure. But part of what makes us special and part of what makes it special for us to deliver to the consumer together is really listening to their needs and understanding that consumers, 75% of Gen Z consumers say that they would prefer a product from a brand that is better for the earth, that really thinks about the long-term implication of the product itself on the planet that we live in. Now, of course, I'm speaking here in Brazil, where we have the Amazon. We have the opportunity, of course, to connect this in a really clear way. And so as we get to the end of my presentation, I'm going to share one example that allows you to authentically put together a real meaningful functional need with a need for values and the opportunity to connect the two concepts together. But I would just offer that it's important that we do both. We think about functional needs and how we meet the consumer's desire to have a faster checkout, a more seamless experience, and an elevated digital experience that was better than the experience that they had yesterday, but that it also resonates with their heart. It resonates with their emotions, and it allows you to connect them with their passions. And the last trend I'm going to share with you, is about control. So I have the opportunity to think about consumers in the way in which they engage with their money, right? How many of you want to feel like you're in control of your money? So to a degree, this is not surprising to you, right? And yet, we want to feel like we are empowered and we're in the driver's seat, and being able to set preferences, being able to decide whether or not the product works in a certain way is very much a part of control. And when we think about this younger consumer, what I think is so special about them is they're smart and they're mature. Now, those of you who have Gen Z kids, I'm one, I have a Gen Z kid. You may not always feel like they're super mature, but why am I saying this? 97% of Gen Z consumers seek out financial information so that they can be a better money manager. They want to keep their money safe, even if their money is just their allowance at the moment, right, before they get their first job. they're actually looking for advice for financial management. The difference, though, is they're probably not asking mom and dad for advice, right? They're probably not walking into their bank branch and asking for advice. They're finding this advice in social channels. And so what's incumbent upon all of us is making sure that the advice that they seek to help them feel financially smart and secure is offered in a trusted way, and that we're meeting the consumer where they are, that we are participating in social channels, and that we're providing information that they can feel confident in so that they can be strong money managers. But it's not to be underestimated that even this youthful consumer is already thinking about keeping themselves and their money safe. So I'm going to share a few examples now that will bring some of these trends and themes to life. And I promise, I don't mean to make it about a Mastercard ad, but of course, since I have a day job at Mastercard, it'll help me bring these specific examples forward for you. The first is something that we call Mastercard One Credential. Why is this so special? And it's very fun and ironic to be talking about a One Credential in Brazil, because I feel like Brazil invented the OG One Credential called the combo card. The opportunity, when I go to make my payment, I can already choose here whether I want credit or whether I want debit. And that's actually uncommon around the world. What's new in coming forward in the idea of Mastercard One Credential is the opportunity for the rest of the world to catch up, that the consumer wants to be able to make that choice in a digital way. And what's digital about it is the consumer, inside their mobile banking application, has the opportunity to set their preferences before they go shopping. Because when I'm shopping, I don't want to think about it. I want it to be fast, seamless, and secure. I want to be able to check out, and the machine should already know what I needed it to do, right? We talked about that personalization. And so what does that look like for me? In a Mastercard One Credential example, the consumer is able to say, I always want my coffee to go to my debit card. So I can set that by code or by dollar amount. Everything under $10, Starbucks is really around that much now. Okay, everything under $10, let's let that go to debit. But I might also know that when I'm buying movie tickets or when I'm buying concert tickets, I actually need those to go to my credit card because I want to make sure I have my cash flow for the month. And when I know I need to go buy my television or something over $500, I would like that to go to installments. And I want to make sure that I have the ability to install the transaction and pay with a payment plan that I understand. One Credential puts the consumer in the center. It allows them to set their preferences inside the banking application, and then they can go and feel confident that their choices are going to be honored and they're being strong money managers along the way. I'm going to shift gears and I'm going to share another example of personalization, but not in a creepy way, in a super fun way. We know that consumers express themselves, right? Especially younger consumers, they express themselves by showing and demonstrating and participating with their passions. We believe in empowering consumers and connecting them with their passions, and so that happens through things like the opportunity now through digital to choose and select and customize a card that represents me. Who am I a fan of? I'm sure there might be some messy fans in the room. I'm sure there may be some folks who might not be messy fans and might prefer a card that goes vroom vroom. And now, with digital, we can animate that experience. And so when I go and check out, it's just a little bit more fun. And so now I'm going to tell you about the third example. And this one's really special because it kind of brings all of these three considerations: personalization, connecting me with my values, and the ability to ensure that I also express the control that I need to spend with confidence for a safe, seamless checkout experience in one way that we reach the consumer. And the example that I'm going to share, we've done now in 17 markets around the world simultaneously, including just recently here in Brazil. And what is this use case? So the reality is, if I take Brazil, for example, we have incredible payment experiences. This is a very sophisticated payments market. And we know that we can pay with QR, but we know that the consumer all around the world would like to have a contactless experience. And in particular, when we think about going through transit, whether I'm tapping to get on the bus, whether I'm tapping to take the train, whether I'm tapping to check out the bike that I'm going to ride. It's a lot faster if I can tap and go. Yes, I'm seeing the head nods in the room, as opposed to perhaps having to pay by a link or pull up a QR. And so this is a particular use case where we focused in a way that brought the best consumer experience, but in a way that serviced the whole ecosystem. It's better for government, it's better for society, and it's most certainly better for the consumer. But what do I mean by that? So I'll give you Costa Rica as an example. We partnered together with the Costa Rican government to help bring contactless, open-loop experience to mass transit, buses, etc. Costa Rica is actually already a highly digital market. 54% of transactions in Costa Rica were already happening in a digital way. So why did we focus on mass transit? 47% of all cash was sitting in mass transit. 47% in one use case. And so by bringing together a public and private partnership, the banks together, the government along with us, and the transit systems, right? We reterminalized, and we have the opportunity now for the consumer to tap and go. In New York City, in the New York metro system, for example, I don't know if you've seen the article, it actually just came out a couple of weeks ago. New York City is no longer going to have the old Metro Pass. It's going away, right? Again, I'm seeing head nods in the room. It's going away because it's become an obsolete need. We've replaced an entire infrastructure that only had one purpose with one infrastructure that serves many purposes. Talk about efficiency, and it's just a lot more fun. And I keep saying fun. Why? Because we can engage the consumer every day in a fun way. And so in a moment, we're going to show you how did we reach this consumer in this everyday experience with tap and go, where I have to go on my commute. And what we did was we brought together the values that we talked about. We brought together passion, and we engaged the consumer with a gamification, a methodology in which I'm riding here in Brazil, and someone else might be riding in New York City, and someone else might be riding in Sydney, Australia, and all of us have the opportunity to play a game while we're on the train together, all enabled by my mobile banking application or through a QR code that we create. Second, we brought to the table influencers. I talked to you about making sure that we meet the consumer where they are, that we have to find this consumer in a channel that will resonate for them. In Brazil, we engaged an influencer named Raisa. Some of you may know her. She has over 500,000 followers. And Raisa herself went through a tap and go experience, was playing our game, put it up on her social media, and voila, we had 500,000 consumers understanding this opportunity and thinking about how they might want to try it as well. And the last thing is, as I mentioned, we are a part of a global community, a connected community, every single one of us. And we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to have the best-in-class experience. So by bringing this live in 17 markets worldwide, we can show that the consumer is interested in the world beyond themselves. And we also were able to very carefully and seamlessly message the fact that when you take mass transit, it's actually better for the Earth. And we were able to show the opportunity to contribute to sustainability through the Priceless Planet Coalition. So with that, I want to take a moment to tell you how excited I am. I'm excited about this Gen Z opportunity because there's enormous opportunity for us together to innovate when we listen to their needs and we come with new opportunities ahead. There's this huge growth potential as it relates to this digital transformation of which this consumer segment is going to lead the charge. And we have really fun and innovative ways to connect with them, not just functionally, but on an emotional basis that will unlock value for all of us. So I want to take a moment to thank you for giving me your time and attention. And with that, I'm going to load a video so that we can think about these innovations together. Thank you very much.
Public transit is good for our business because it drives debit card usage, top-of-wallet behavior, and brand differentiation. Public transit is also good for the planet because fewer emissions mean cleaner air and healthier lives for everyone. And that makes this opportunity priceless. Introducing Tap, Go, and Play. It combines Mastercard's open-loop technology with our commitment to sustainability to create a competitive advantage that works for us and for the world. Tap, Go, and Play is a social-first, game-changing platform aimed at commuters and Gen Z that starts with a simple insight. Public transit isn't always fun. So let's change that by making the whole experience more joyful with games, perks, and priceless surprises. We'll launch with a group of influencers who use their debit Mastercard to take public transit and play games with other riders, and we'll amplify it all across social media. Next, we'll use our own media space to provide games for people to play all along their journey, even with other riders in other cities, along with tie-ins to our Priceless Planet Coalition, while reminding everyone, of course, of the positive impact they're having on the environment and just how easy Mastercard makes it to get on board. It's fun, but with real benefits for the cities we live in and the planet we all share.